Hi, welcome to the ABFF podcast. My name is Brandon Collins, and on this episode, I'm speaking with Nicole Friday, the co-founder and president of Nice Crowd. Nicole Friday is a distinguished entrepreneur with over 2 decades of experience in the entertainment industry, encompassing roles such as executive, producer, writer, and media personality. In her current role as president of Nice Crowd, formerly known as ABFF Ventures, Friday oversees the development and promotion of immersive festivals and live experiences that highlight BIPOC talent. We discuss all of this and more in our conversation, which will start in just a moment. The ABFF podcast is sponsored by Morgan Stanley, Global Sports, and Entertainment. So thank you so much for joining me for this interview. I'd love to start off by talking about your journey to becoming president of Nice Crowd and what motivated you to pursue a career in entertainment and live events.
Craziness.
It always is.
Right. Well, so the company started out as ABFF Ventures. Our first property or event was the American Black Film Festival, which has been going on for 29 years. My husband started that film festival out of the need to create a platform for people like us, for the Black community. After going to Sundance, and this is when, in 1997, when Love Jones first came out, was released, and being there and being around people who didn't look anything like us, primarily white men. And he thought, well, where's the content and the people who look like us and represent us and who have content or are just as talented as us? So he ventured out to start this American Black Film Festival, which began in Acapulco at the time. So it was the Acapulco Black Film Festival for 5 years, and then we moved stateside. And then became the American Black Film Festival. So in terms of my journey of becoming president, so when we met, he was a year into this. And I was working in radio, actually, as a producer, and had done that for a number of years, working in morning radio and working with talent and all of those things. And then we met, and pretty much the rest is history. I continued to work in radio for a number of years. So I was like the silent partner, I called the pillow talker for a long time. And then I had children and all of those things. And then once my kids got larger, slowly but surely, I started to take more of a front person role, I guess, a front line role, I would say. And then somehow I became the president, and then he took a step back. I'm not sure when that happened. But, I guess the more I saw the need for us to become partners, and he saw the need for us to become partners, it just made sense. There's the person that you trust the most is family members. And then we just became this couple, if you will, that started running this business together. And fast forward to 2023, because people primarily knew us as the American Black Film Festival, we wanted to rebrand as Nice Crowd because we did other events besides the festival in Miami. That's our longest running event, our tentpole property. But we also do an award ceremony, ABFF Honors. We have a global festival that we do in London. We have a comedy festival that we do in Washington, D.C. And in the fall, we're actually starting a pop-up tour, if you will, a little bit of taking a taste of ABFF around the country to 4 cities. So we decided to rebrand as Nice Crowd, and which is really about the power of gathering. It's something to be said about when our community gets together. It's very powerful. Absolutely. And certainly we all want to be in a crowd that's nice, which is how we came, how Nice Crowd was born. So there you have it.
Okay. Can you speak a little bit more about the rebranding? Like, what's that process like, and how do you communicate that to your followers so they don't get confused as you're, expanding and hosting events that that they'll enjoy, but maybe don't know that it's related to what you've done before?
Yeah, it's a lot of explaining, for sure, when you rebrand a company. And typically when companies rebrand, they're formally known as entity. And so we carry that for a long time. But, like anything else, you make an announcement, you talk about it, you keep talking about it, keep talking about it. You keep repeating yourself until it sticks, until people understand. And then there's a lot of times where, you give an explanation like I'm doing now of the reasons behind the rebrand and how we continue to push forward. We're doing events that aren't just the American Black Film Festival, or even just for Black people, still for our community, or people of color, but not just for Black people only, which is what the comedy festival is. So the comedy festival is Because They're Funny Comedy Festival. That's for Black, Indigenous, all sorts of people of color, brown people. It's for everyone.
Right. I would love to hear about how you in your leadership role, you foster a growth mindset, both within yourself and also with your direct reports. Is it, just keeping your ear to the ground on what the industry trends are? Is it, talking to peers? Like, how do you go about that?
It's certainly all of those things. And then just being out in the community, attending events, knowing what the industry trends are, like you mentioned, just trying to stay ahead of things, looking to see what our sisters and brothers are doing as well, and what works for them, talking to people like you, talking to people like Gil Robertson, what are you doing? What's happening? What works? What doesn't work? We're in this together. It's not, there's enough people and things that are against us that we don't need to be against one another. And so it's really knowing what is going on. I tell my team all the time, the MVP is the person who knows the most. That's the most valuable player. And then also I would say what's important is collaboration and team building. I tell my team all the time that if we all have to win, in order for us to win, we all have to win. It's not one person. We're not doing this by ourselves. We're doing this together. This is a team. This is called team. So team is about teamwork. And so I find that to be really an important way to lead. And then also, making sure that everyone in our team has a seat at the table. So your opinion, your point of view, your perspective matters. And we want to hear it. It may not be something that we do, or it may not be something we do right now. I don't think no is ever no. It just may not at the moment.
How do you go about representing the Black experience across the various ranges, right? Because Black people aren't a monolith, contrary to what mainstream media tries to say about us. Mm-hmm. And so, how do you go about representing that in your various events, the film festival, the comedy events, et cetera?
I think that's represented through storytelling. So because we're not a monolith, nor do we all look alike, we have many different shades. The storytelling is also many different shades. So it's not one story. We don't have one story. We have many, many stories. Our tagline for the festival is "Everyone has a story and yours belongs here." That is true. And so when I'll speak about this festival specifically, when we do our festival, we have stories from around the globe. And some of them there are certainly similarities, but they're not the same story. And when we do our comedy festival, even, it's about having people of different cultures who, speak different languages, even talk to the people that come to our comedy festival. When we go abroad to London, yes, we have similarities. Yes, we have some of the same stories, but the stories are different. And when we go abroad, we try and also figure out how to bridge that gap because of the similarities, but also the differences, and understanding what those differences are and how to move forward together.
100%. What's been the most important learning experience you've had thus far in your role as president of Nice Crowd?
I would say internally, how to motivate my team. I think I'm learning every day how to be a better leader, and what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes you have to, you just try new things and see if it works. And but keeping my team motivated and focused, I would say that's internal. And excited about what it is that we do, excited about our mission, excited and being passionate. And I always say, you got to care about this. If you don't care about it, then you might want to do something different. That's internally. Externally, I would say making sure that people say good things about us, being professional, standing by our word, doing what we say we're going to do. You want people to say nice things about you. You want them to come back. You want retention. That's really important. And sometimes you can't control retention, but for the most part, people like you. They want to work with you. They want to do business with you. If you walk into If I walk into, say, a car dealership and no one says hello, I'm walking out.
I hate that. I hate
right?
that. Yep.
I'm walking out and I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to another one. It might be the same company, the same
Yep.
brand, but I'm going to another one because, hi, I'm here, I exist. No one greets me. No. And so it's about, greeting people. It's about being professional. It's about under promising and over delivering. It's about standing with your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If there's a deadline, meet it.
Now, this approach that you have, like, is that something that is just learned over time? Is that something that you took from previous work experiences or previous leaders that you've had in your life or mentors? Where's that come from?
It's a little bit of both, and probably my upbringing too. My mother was an educator. My dad is an entrepreneur. And so having that instilled in me from an early age helped to develop who I wanted to be, of course. And then certainly falling down and getting back up. And then I think also attending, executive coaching, attending conferences, learning from people, reading, all of those things that seem to make sense. And just being on the job, the best way to learn is on the job, right? On the job training, that's what I call it. And so, when you are a leader, you have to deal with, and you run a company, you have to deal with a lot of different personalities. And so what works the best, and what personalities work best in your organization within your team? Because all personalities don't. I always say, the expression of one bad apple spoils a whole bunch is very true. And especially when you're a small entity or a small team. I have behind me, if you can see, it says good vibes only. I really do live by that. I think that it's important. I like to have a good time. I like to work hard, but I also like to have a good time and like to, smile and be light. I don't like heaviness. It doesn't, and I've never liked that. That's just my personality, but I'm learning. It's funny because as a leader, you learn more and more about yourself as well.
100%. Could you speak about some pivotal moments in your life and career that help? You spoke a little bit about shaping your leadership style, but just how that helps you be resilient and foster that growth mindset throughout, your work at Nice Crowd, and just, as a partner and just in this industry.
My biggest lessons are my children, honestly. Parenting. I think parenting makes me a better human being, because you truly have to, innately, I care about other people, but you have to really care when you have children. And because I grew up, with a very strong family, when and if, life happens, someone has an issue, at work, I try and be very, very compassionate with whatever it is that they're going through, because again, life happens. You might get that emergency phone call where you just got to go, and I understand that because I've been there. And so that's really important, to have compassion. And then in terms of working with my spouse, what I have learned, and I try and express and employ this upon my team, is it's very hard to work with your family, spouse, brother, sister, mother, whatever it is. I would not suggest it.
Okay.
It's not easy, but it works for us. We figured out how to make it happen and how to make it work. But I say to people, I think that my husband and I, sit in very challenging seats, not because we're president and CEO, but because we work together and we're married. And so we're constantly together. And I tell people, listen, you can't bring in here your personal business or your personal issues, because if I'm mad at my husband or he's mad at me, and we're human, we're married, we get mad at each other, been together for 25 years, you will never know that. And so there's a level of professionalism that's really important to always uphold, maintain. And so with saying that, I tell my team, you don't bring that personal stuff in here. again, do things happen? Yes. Might you get a phone call where there's an emergency? Yes. Because we're here all the time. But I have learned, through all of these different things in parenting, I'll go back to parenting the most, that has certainly helped shape who I am as a leader. And it has given me compassion as a human being. And I'm not sure if I answered your question or not.
You have, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely. Thank you.
Sometimes I can just go on and on and on, Brandon.
No, this is important. This is important. I think the listeners really appreciate hearing how folks approach this, and especially you working so closely with your partner. That's incredibly important. I relate to that because I work closely with my wife as well in our production company and everything like that.
So you understand, you overstand.
Yes, it's a tough balance, especially
it's a balance. It's a dance. It really is. But I can tell you this: so we don't drive to work together.
Okay, that's good.
We rarely go to lunch together. In our office, we're on different sides. And we don't really, certainly we work together, but we're on different meetings. We don't do everything together. So, my kids are always like, how do you guys do it? My kids they really trip over it because I'm like, I could never in a million years. Yeah. And, again, I don't recommend it. I don't suggest it, but you figure out that rhythm. And, and then I think it's also important to know your lane. What are your core responsibilities? What are his responsibilities? How do we come together and talk about them? And something that's really important as husband and wife, if we never disagree in front of our team, because we are husband and wife. And so that can be viewed as an argument because we're husband and wife. If we were just, coworkers, it would be different, but you can't do that. So if we don't agree with each other, then we talk about that later at home.
Yes. Away from all the direct reports. They don't need to see that. Absolutely. Nice Crowd produces several events, as you mentioned, the ABFF honors, the American Black Film Festival, obviously, and then Because They're Funny, the comedy festival. Which one has been the most challenging? And that could be for a plethora of reasons, but what have you found to be the most time consuming or?
Well, the most time consuming, without a doubt, is the American Black Film Festival, because it's so big. And we do 90 events in 5 days. And so that's the one that's the most time consuming. But, anytime you're in live events, there's always something that's happening that you didn't anticipate. And you try and expect and anticipate so many things, everything, but you can't. And I think that the biggest lesson is to walk away learning how to avoid that the next time if possible. But then there's something else that happens, and that's the nature of live events. Last year for our 20th anniversary, we were in Miami. We had a hurricane. Who knew that was going to happen? And so, with that being, is it possible? Yes, of course. The weather, you just never know. But, we had to make emergency decisions on the fly. And speaking of emergency, we were dealing with the state of emergency that came down from the governor. And so we're in the middle of the beginning, not even the middle, the beginning of this festival, but the middle of the production. And we had to make adjustments. People were missing flights and, not able to get there. And we had to change schedules, and sponsors weren't able to get their talent there. It was so many things that happened, but you know what? It worked out. And what I learned from that, what was amazing from that is our tagline, which we brought it back this year, but our tagline last year was "Everyone has a story and yours belongs here." There were so many stories that were birthed out of that experience, because it was almost like by any means necessary, I am getting this festival. And whether people, their flights were canceled, changed 3 times, they go back to the airport, they had to be diverted to some other cities. They weren't going to Miami, they went to some other place, and then they met up with people. Hey, are you going to Miami? Let's rent a car and drive together. So many stories that were pretty amazing around that. And so many things happen with production that you plan for and can't plan for.
Absolutely. Congrats on the 20-year milestone. That's incredible. And congrats on the upcoming 21st year.
How has 29 years for the American Black Film Festival?
29 years.
This is year 29.
Got it.
Yeah.
How has the festival grown since its inception, and how would you describe the impact that it's had on the film industry?
Well, as I mentioned, it started out in Acapulco, and it started with, I don't know, 50 people, 90 people, something like that. And it's grown to about 7,000 people. And the impact
Incredible.
has been huge. I mean, we created a platform where artists, filmmakers were able to share their stories, showcase their content, share resources, meet executives, meet studios. I mean, people like Ryan Coogler that has got his start at the festival with his short, with the HBO short film competition, which is 28 years old. So the first year we had no sponsors other than Mexico. And then the second year HBO came on, so they're our founding sponsor. And, people like, I mentioned Ryan Coogler, but Will Packer, he got his start there. Stephen Cable Jr., what's his name? I can't think of his first name. Ernesto Green, what is his first name? I want to say Ralph, but it's not Ralph. That's terrible. I cannot think of his first name right now, but it will come to me. But so many people got their start at the festival, whether you're in front of the camera, behind the camera, or an executive. And it's a great place to be and to get your name, get your work out there. And so we're very proud of being able to, Issa Rae, Ava DuVernay, I mean, so many people. We're very proud of the people that have come through the festival. There's almost hardly any Black person in Hollywood that has not touched the festival, whether it's gotten their start there, brought content there, developed there. I mean, so many people that have gotten deals, Numa Perrier. I mean, so many people that have gotten deals and started their career at the festival.
Understood. And I think you were thinking maybe a Rashad Ernesto Green? Yes.
Green.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm like, Rashad. I appreciate that.
No worries. How does a creative go about being considered for the film festival? Do they, what's the submission process like and everything?
Yeah, so actually submissions just closed in February, end of February 28th. It's usually a 6-month run as a criteria, depending on what you're submitting for, whether it's narrative section, documentary section, short film section, series, but they have to meet the deadline. That's one. It's open for 6 months, people. And so there's a whole criteria and that they have to follow in order to submit. And then it goes through a jury process. I don't view the films, but it goes through a jury process. And HBO specifically, it's all HBO executives that watch those films, the submissions, and then it gets down to the last 10. And then I and other people on my team select the final 5. But the other films that are, the thing about submissions and films that we showcase, there's only so many that we can select. There's only so many days. The festival is 5 days. There's only so many slots. We wish that we could have many, many more. But, what we do is we show the films on our streaming platform after the festival. So it's 5 days in Miami, and then it's 7 days on our Play platform. And we screen those films and sometimes more.
Okay. Now, how do you and your team go about determining success with your events at Nice Crowd? Do you go off of audience feedback, experience of the talent and creatives, or your own assessments? How do you go about that?
It's all of those. I mean, it's feedback, surveys. We do customer surveys, sponsor surveys. The team does an evaluation, internal evaluation. We like to name team players who are the MVP. They're nominated by their colleagues who's the MVP of that particular event. And they give reasons why. But primarily surveys, because we want feedback. I tell people, even the press, I tell people all the time, if you don't tell us how you felt or what you thought, then we won't know. And if we don't know what's broken, then we can't fix it. It's not just what we see, because what we see is a little different. And we see things that other people don't see, of course, because, when you're behind the scenes, you're like, oh my gosh, just don't let the audience know or see it. But yeah, and we value that. We value feedback and input.
Okay, I want to piggyback off of that real quick because I always like, I love for people to talk about their wins and successes, but also about their growth areas and opportunities. So you mentioned, if something's broken, what is something that broke or went wrong at the festival that you obviously weren't expecting, but you took that experience and grew from it?
I don't know if there's something that, I mean, over the years, certainly there have been many things, whether it's, overshooting, having a venue that could be too large, or making the decision that or thinking, I don't know, this is I mean, you have to think about the content that's coming and what makes sense for the audience, or, if it's not right for the audience. I would say that, there may have been times where we thought something wasn't right for the audience, but it wasn't. Or even when you're dealing with sponsors, what I've learned over the years is you have to also give input back to your sponsors when they may want to bring a piece of content or have a title of something that just is not right for our audience. And so I have learned that it's important to give them feedback, not only before, but even sometimes after, or, saying, I think that you might want to try this, or maybe you want to do that. And it's important to give suggestions to people who may or may not know, especially if it's a new sponsor or a new client. And then also, I would say when you're gathering your team, it's important to make sure that, like I said, they care about what it is that you do and they care about the mission. And, because sometimes it's all hands on deck, and I can do every single job, and I'm not afraid to do every single job. If I need to get on the floor and open up some boxes, I'll do that too. And so that mindset is what's important for everyone to have, that's on our team.
Thank you. Thank you for that. What advice do you have for someone that maybe is looking to get into live event production or starting their own BIPOC focused like film festival these days?
I would say volunteering is really important so that you can learn how it works. Come in. Sorry. Okay, thank you. Volunteering is really important. And just, if you're looking for a job, then not just a job, just again, something that makes sense and something that you're passionate about, not just a job. And I would say, even for those who are trying to break into this, whether it's as an executive, or if it's someone, or if it's a filmmaker or an artist, know about the company or the industry. Be sure you know what it is that you want to get into. And you may not always have a clear, understanding of everything, but at least know a lot of it. Know what you're getting into before you try and get into it. And also, I would say about live events, people think all the time, oh, it's so great, it's wonderful. And it is, but it's a lot of work. And so I use this analogy all the time, in sports, you have to practice. And then you get to the playoffs, hopefully, because you're practicing and you played the game well. And then you get to the Super Bowl or you get to the championship. All of that mundane stuff, that practice that you hate getting up early in the morning to do, all of that sweating and your muscles hurt, that's what you have to do before you get to the Super Bowl or the championship. Otherwise, you're not going to get there.
Absolutely. Nicole, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for your time. My last question for you is, what are you most excited about for 2025? We're just a few months in, but what are you most excited about in regards to what Nice Crowd is doing?
Maintaining.
Fair enough.
Maintaining.
I hear you on that. Please tell the listeners how they can keep up with Nice Crowd on all the events coming up this year.
Absolutely. Our website is nicecrowd.com, and all of the things that we do, you can navigate through that platform and you can see all the wonderful events that we do and exciting events and what's coming up.
Thank you. And thank you for having a beautiful website. It was very easy to navigate. Everything's very clear. I really appreciate that just from a user perspective.
Oh, thank you, Brandon. I appreciate you wanting to interview me and having me on your podcast and talking to the listeners. Thank you so much. This was a great interview.
Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Nicole Friday. We look forward to you joining us on the next episode of the ABFF podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you're alerted about new episodes as soon as they're released. You can find all things ABFF at ABFF.com or follow us at ABFF on Instagram. Have a great day.